Disco Inferno on commentary. What the fuck could possibly go wrong? Everything. Literally everything at this point. I'm John Rentham with the retro review of WCW Nitro from January 8th, 2001. It's a go-home Nitro for Sin. Boy, that leg break of Sid's and a whole bunch of other stuff on that show. Not looking forward to revisiting that, but goddamn, just 2.5 more months of reviewing this stuff. It has been a lot of fun to see some of the bright spots in the last year of WCW. You know, from the reboot episode all the way to now, but goddamn it, this company was so creatively bankrupt. The talents were trying, but just nobody cared. The crowd energy had died. The company was dead. It was just limping along to the finish line. Really sad to see how WCW fell in such a short time. As some people have said, they're the only company to beat themselves twice. And God, ain't that the truth. They lost so much damn money the second time around, though. So they're in St. Paul, Minnesota, AWA stomping grounds, and damn, just fucking damn this fucking show. First Nitro 2001, by the way, because the New Year's Day edition, rather, was a best of show. So we have Shivani, Hudson, and Disco Inferno on commentary. Disco Inferno ruining everything like he always did. Flair about Mike Sanders. Hey, Mike, nobody likes you. And he's not wrong. I don't understand why Mike Sanders got so much TV time. And I'm sure he's a nice guy. He just didn't deserve all this TV time when he really wasn't all that good. Wasn't really all that good on the mic, and he really wasn't good in the ring. Yeah, hey, how'd you get the commissionership job, he says, by the way. What the fuck's going on here? He didn't actually say that. Would have been funny if he did, though. Turner might have been upset. And then he says it's going to be you versus Miller for the commissionership at Sin. Great, we're revisiting this bullshit. And then he talks about what happened on Thunder with Jarrett and Scott Steiner as the mystery man, dressed up as the mystery man, attacking Sid and all that. So it's not going to be a three-way dance, and Sid's going to be a four-way dance, and Sid's going to be in it. Yeah, that match. God fucking damn it. That match was going to be bad anyway, but oh, that fucking leg break. Sweet Jesus. Not looking forward to it, guys. God damn, that was so fucking brutal and did not need to happen. Stupid John Laurinaitis telling Sid that he had to add an aerial move to his goddamn offense. John Laurinaitis, piece of shit that he is. So, Flair then stirs the pot between Jarrett and Scott, saying, hey, you know, about 3 weeks ago, he lied to you. Jarrett lied to you about not being involved in a match to, get a spot in this three-way, now four-way dance, except Flair said that anybody that told Scott that they were in the match would forfeit their spot. So he's just stirring the pot and saying, hey, you followed the rules, and I'm going to fuck with every single one of you guys. And also, it's going to be Jarrett versus Scott tonight for the world title. And if they don't go full force, they're both suspended, and Scott loses the championship. Cool. Just make the best friends fight each other. And boy, was that a messy main event. We then get Goldberg and Sarge arriving, and Goldberg apparently was irritated with this one guy at the table, at least with his hat, and decides to throw the table, push the guy up against the wall, and say, where's Chronic? And then he pointed him to his dealer right off there. No, he said the Chronic was just down the hall in their locker room. A very dark locker room that we saw a little bit later. And I don't know why Goldberg felt the need to do that. He could just ask the guy. I don't think he was doing anything, Bill, but it is what it is. Sanders is with the Arian Harris brothers. One is starting to grow his hair out, despite the fact they're both supposed to be bald, and they were already balding in the late 90s. Well, actually in the early 90s, because they had the bushy hair and some really, really prominent bald spots, like Randy Savage, except Randy Savage was actually really fucking good. And anyway, they're going to face Ernest Miller tonight. And Sanders says, you really should shave your goddamn hair. What the fuck is going on with you guys? Douglas then confronts Flair backstage and says, hey, I went in on this world title match. And Flair says, okay, face Sid. And then Shane also said he wants a U.S. title match at Sin against Hugh Morris. You just went in on the world title, and now you went in on the U.S. title. Shane shouldn't have even been featured on WCW programming at this point because he wasn't any fucking good. He was fucking washed by 98. Injuries or not, he was fucking goddamn washed. But apparently he doesn't understand how championship shots work, but it is what it is. Shannon Moore versus Chavo Guerrero. Helms on commentary, and basically Chavo tries to drive a wedge between the 3 count, 2 out, 3 count members and says, hey, I'm going to make this a title match, and if Moore beats me, guess what? Moore is going to face me, and I'm going to get my automatic rematch clause, and you are going to be out in the cold. He kept trying to egg him on, get Helms to get involved in the match, but it didn't matter, and fucking Disco was insufferable here, just, picking apart Helms or trying to, and failing fucking miserably, because Disco Inferno was a fucking failure at life. And then It was alright. Helms did do a good job plugging Sin and putting over the Cruiserweight division. And then a Brainbuster 1, 2, 3. And then we get a brawl afterwards. Helms stands tall over Chavo. And it is what it is. And then Sanders is run off by Vito after attacking Kwee because he was all upset about a bunch of bullshit going on, because he was upset about having to face Miller, and also just probably for the fact he's Mike Sanders and he was not even above average, pretty much below average. And then Vito says, Kwee, I'm going to teach you karate. Cool. Whatever. Anyway, we then cut to, backstage of, Flair and Totally Buff. They're just talking. Very blurry shot, by the way. Like, the camera just couldn't focus. Hey, what the fuck's going on here? And we find out a little bit later, actually, we find out a little bit down the road, that Flair had planted all these seeds and we were going to get the Magnificent Seven storyline, which was a bit weird, but at least was something. It was something better than what we had. So we then get Miller versus the Arian Harris brothers. A giant cardboard WWF sucks sign. And it's funny because WCW would shut down 2.5 months. And I'm not saying that WWF at the time was great. They had their issues, but they at least were a better run company. WCW wasn't. And I feel bad saying that because I fucking love WCW. Disco was a moron on commentary, big shock, and eventually, despite the fact Miller kept trying to hit both, he got hit with the H-bomb 1, 2, 3. Miss Jones looked great here, by the way, I gotta say that. And then Miller dances while Mean Gene wonders what the fuck is happening, probably in about every facet of the company. And then get backstage stuff with Sid and Morris. Morris says, hey, I want Shane, leave a little piece of him for me at Sin. And then Jarrett and Scott are just talking about the main event. Sanders books a Minnesota Massacre match. It's Vito and Kwee versus the Thrillers. Randomly selected opponents. And then Lex says, I've got a great idea, which already means that WCW is well up their own ass on this bullshit, because Lex rarely had good ideas, like in 2003 when he contributed to the death of Miss Elizabeth. And I'm not going to apologize for that, or not going to forgive Lex for that, because Liz was a grown adult, but Lex was responsible for it. Fucking piece of shit. So, they talk to Chronic. You're going to get a tag match with Goldberg and Sarge, basically to soften them up. But this is a call from Flair. And then we get Team Canada. Storm's going to face Kidman, and that Sin will be a Canadian penalty box match, which got carried over to TNA, now Impact Wrestling, when they did the King of the Mountain match in the penalty box, which I actually didn't mind. I didn't mind the King of the Mountain match, as messy as it could be. But then get Storm versus Kidman. Conan on commentary yelling at Disco. That was actually kind of funny. Disco knocks Kidman for not going to the gym. Funny, because Disco never went to wrestling school because he wasn't any fucking good. Kidman was a better worker, and is a better worker now than Disco ever was in his prime. And later, a brawl between the Animals and Team Canada, and then Kid Crusher, K Crusher 1, 2, 3. Shane then yells at the crowd like he always does and faces Sid and loses. The crowd loved Sid. Chokeslam, powerbomb, 1, 2, 3. Scott and Jarrett toss Sid over the rail and attack him. Flair then says, hey, you guys got to go full force. And Duggan is going to be the special guest referee in the penalty box match. And then it's Terry Funk talking endlessly about hardcore wrestling, wanting to be respected by Ric Flair, face the best of the best, Goldberg, DDP, Scott Steiner, in hardcore matches. Doesn't respect Crowbar, calls him a nobody, and then Crowbar shows up. Daphne has sparklers in a wood chair and is dancing, which looked kind of good, actually, because Daphne always looked pretty damn good, but I don't understand how her doing that and Crowbar trying to be serious was supposed to work out. It didn't work for me. And he even called Ming a slur, so to speak, that I'm not going to say here, but yeah, that was something else. And yeah, Crowbar's like, I idolize you, da-da-da. Funk says, well, you should idolize me, ECW and all that, the hardcore legend in the US. And then, yeah, Crowbar kept talking. This went forever. And then Ming comes down, hits Funk with a chair. He's like, is that all you got? Probably riled him pretty damn good, as safe of a worker as Ming is. And then Daphne hits him with a wood chair. He gets knocked down, or she gets knocked down. And then Ming does the Tongan death grip, busting through the wooden chair that was obviously gimmicked. And then does that and gets the title and says, you want it? Come and get it. And then we get letters in a jacket being switched. What the fuck's going on here? It's the randomly selected opponents. Goldberg and Sarge versus Chronic. It was essentially 2-on-1 because Sarge got his hand targeted, and then it was a spear jackhammer on Clark 1, 2, 3. While Totally Buff was beating up Sarge, removed his cast, beat them down, and then left. Yeah, this was pointless. And then we get Sanders talking about the Minnesota Massacre match, and we get Sanders, Palumbo, O'Hare, but then DDP and Nash, because the envelopes got switched. Everything got switched. It was this match, last man standing essentially, and the insiders, Nash and DDP, end up standing tall. This was bullshit. Also, we had Vito, Kiwi, and various others fight off the rest of the Natural Born Thrillers and fight him backstage. This show is so fucking bad. We then get Scott yelling about how he won't wrestle Jeff, and then Scott and Jeff are in the ring yelling, and then Flair says the match will happen, and it's 4 minutes, it's not very good, and then Sid shows up, the Mystery Man shows up, they're barking, the fans are barking, rather, thinking it's Rick Steiner, it's actually Road Warrior Animal, so they were at least right as far as a tag team person, and this show basically ends in a melee, and not very good, and that's essentially it right there. So, yep, we're on our way to Sin, just got to review the Thunder after this, and we're there. Poor Sid. Agree, disagree what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retland. I'll see you soon.